dear members of the Mexican Bar Association, dear members of the International Association of Lawyers, dear members of the legal profession in the world. This is a special virtual session organized by the Mexican Bar Association in which we've been discussing and addressing from different perspectives the challenges of the legal profession in light of COVID-19, mostly from the Mexican law perspective. But we are also interested on what our colleagues are doing in other jurisdictions in the international arena. And for that purpose, today, we're going to talk with Mr. Jerome Roth, President of the International Association of Lawyers. Jerome, thank you very much for your presence. Jerome is connected to the sessions remotely from San Francisco, California. Thank you very much, Jerry.
It's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Hector.
Thank you, Jerry. For those that might not know what the International Association of Lawyers is, would you please tell us a little bit about what is the International Association of Lawyers, membership, a little bit of history? Please, Jerry.
Thank you very much. Yes, again, it's a real honor to be here. We're the International Association of Lawyers. We go by the name UIA, which is from the French Union Internationale des Avocats. We're proud to say we're the world's oldest international legal association. We were founded in 1927. At that time, we were founded in Brussels, and it was in the wake of World War I as an effort for lawyers of the world to stay together, stay in touch, and work together, something that was the necessity of which was realized during the World War period. We're now based in Paris. We have thousands of members all over the world. We have bar association as well as individual members. And we're also very proud of the fact of being the most multicultural, multilingual. We do everything in our 3 official languages. One of them, I'm happy to say, is Spanish. And we also work in French and in English. And I'm also proud because I'm the 5th U.S. president of this organization in its 100-year history, but I'm also the first from California. So I like to represent the West Coast of the United States here, and that's who we are. That's the UIA.
Okay, thank you very much, Jerry. So what are the main activities that the International Association of Lawyers engages?
Well, we have 3 main missions. First of all, we exchange information among our membership by having meetings, publications. We have a series of seminars. Now this year, obviously, they've been webinars. We have a magazine called The Jurist. We put out books on legal topics, and we serve the purpose of allowing the world's lawyers to exchange information with one another. That's probably one of our primary goals. Secondly, we exist in order to allow our members to network from a business perspective. Incredibly useful to have access to this network of some of the best lawyers around the world. I have used this network in my own practice in California and San Francisco, where I work, when I've needed a lawyer in Mexico or in Paris or anywhere else in the world in order to serve my clients. And then thirdly, we have a very important human rights component, which is protecting the lawyers of the world, making sure that lawyers who are subject to persecution or prosecution, interference with their independence, with the independence of their bar association or of the judiciary, we speak out on that. And we bring together lawyers from all over the world to help shine light on situations where lawyers are suffering. We're constantly doing that. We have a very active, what's called the Institute of Rule of Law, or IROL, and I'm very involved with their activities, but our president of that is Jackie Scott in Washington, D.C., and we've got a really good track record. It's a very important part of UIA.
Thank you, Jerry. What are the challenges of international legal practice in light of COVID-19 in the perspective of the International Association of Lawyers?
Well, there are challenges, Hector, as you probably know, and there are opportunities. The challenge is probably the principal challenge is the inability to travel, to meet with our clients and our fellow lawyers in person. that has always been a very important part of UIA and an important part of all of our practice. I could tell you right now, I'd rather be sitting with you at your desk or in a conference room than on a video. And we've had to deal with that. There are financial challenges for many law firms around the world, and the UIA is very involved with that issue. We've been dealing with our collective members, our Bar Association members on those challenges. Some areas of the law have burgeoned, like bankruptcy, employment law, contract law, but others, like litigation, find it difficult because we have our courts closed. So issues about access to justice pose real problems and real challenges for us as well. And also, we've been learning from our members. There are a series of, I have to be honest with you, challenges I was unaware of. But there are ethical challenges, for example. There are law firms advertising COVID specialties who don't really have COVID specialties, and that bar associations are trying to make sure they're keeping our ethical standards and our professional standards up to date and up to speed in this period in this strange period. So all of these are posing challenges to individual lawyers, to law firms, to bar associations. And I want to mention one other challenge I've been very attuned to, which is we have young lawyers who are scared, who are worried that they're just getting started in their profession, they're developing a reputation, they're building the practice, and all of a sudden they find the whole world blocked. I've been very active in that. I've been speaking to the Young Lawyers Association, AIJA, that's the International Association, the ELSA, European Law Students Association, Young Lawyers in the United States. I think we should all keep our eyes open to the challenges they face.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. What is the role, or it should be the role, of the bar associations in responding to the COVID-19 crisis?
Well, so some of the challenges I just mentioned, I think bar associations have a special ability to deal with and also a special responsibility to deal with. I think we should be very focused on our law firm members, making sure that there are not insurmountable financial problems that some of the law firms face and individual lawyers face. And I know bar associations are playing a role around the world to try to deal with those circumstances. We also have to keep our eyes on, as I mentioned, young lawyers and other minority group lawyers, whether it's national minority, a geographic minority, ethnic minority, because they often suffer more from this kind of blockage, and I think we have a special responsibility to them. We have to keep our eyes on our professional responsibilities and our ethical responsibilities. And perhaps most important to the UIA, we need to look at and be aware of what other bar associations are doing around the world so that we remain part of this international brother and sisterhood of bar associations. We can learn from one another. We can help one another. We should not think we're doing it alone. We're going this route alone, even as a bar association. I have learned so much from the bar associations I've been interacting with in my capacity, and I've been talking about the lessons I've learned from them with my San Francisco Bar Association and my American Bar Association. So those are all obligations and special roles that I think bar associations can play.
Thank you, Jerry. Mexican lawyers and American lawyers historically have been interacting a lot because of the links we have, not only geographically, but historically, socially, family bonds, friendship, and many other bonds between the two countries, the lawyers of both countries. However, we do have different legal systems in Mexico and the United States, and despite of that, we still have a lot of interaction, very intense interaction with lawyers of the United States more than lawyers of any other country in the world. In that sense, or in that perspective, would you please tell us about the importance of having a cross-border perspective, both in litigation and corporate transactions?
Thank you, Hector. I think that's such an important question. First of all, on a personal note, Mexico has always been very important to me. I've spent a great deal of time there. I work there quite a bit. It's obviously got very close relationships with California, but with the rest of the United States as well. It's true that we have different legal systems, but we share clients, we share problems, we share many issues together. And boy, if ever two countries were in it together, it's the United States and Mexico. I couldn't emphasize that enough. But you do have a civil system. We have a common law system. And I think it is critical for our members of the Mexican Bar Associations, of the Barra Mexicana, of the other associations in Mexico, and also of the United States lawyers who want to interact with other countries like Mexico, to be aware of the other system. It's so important to not close your eyes to the differences, to have at least some basic understanding of the other system. You know, when I was a young lawyer, I don't want to say how many years ago, but you know, decades ago, American lawyers just learned American law, and we learned almost nothing about other countries' law. And if other countries' legal issues came up, your eyes sort of glazed over and you considered it somebody else's problem. That's not the case anymore. It cannot be the case. All of us have a responsibility to our clients, in my view, to have at least a basic understanding of the other systems of law that exist around the world, and especially in a country. So it's so important for U.S. lawyers to have an understanding of foreign legal systems, and in particular, we work so closely with Mexico. Similarly, I think it's very important for Mexican lawyers to have an understanding of the U.S. system. And to be honest, I believe bar associations and an association like the UIA can play an important role there too, in providing basic information about the other systems of the world, so that lawyers can educate themselves when they're dealing with another country, a client in a foreign country, a law firm in another country, and so they can have the basic vocabulary. You know, I do a lot of internal investigations in Mexico, for example, and understanding your civil system and understanding your court system. I have learned all about the meaning of the word amparo, for example, because amparo is such an important writ in your country's legal system. Before I learned that, it was as though I was missing a key part. And so having those basic understandings, I think, are really critical.
Yes, and I think, Jerry, the International Association of Lawyers and the Mexican Bar Association hopefully can interact more, and American lawyers and Mexican lawyers can learn from each other in our systems, and not only for academic purposes, but also with a professional interest. I hope we can increase our interaction in the future.
I could not agree more, and that's why when you asked me about the challenges COVID provided, it also has provided these opportunities to realize that how easy it is for you and I to be here today talking, whereas last year we probably wouldn't have thought of that. And it would have been, I would have had to flown to Mexico, you would have had to flown to San Francisco. And here we can talk and we can exchange information, and I think we should be doing that on a regular basis so that Mexican lawyers have the opportunity to learn about other legal systems and international opportunities, and we have opportunity to learn about everything exciting going on in Mexico.
Excellent. We'll do that, Jerry. Jerry, would you please let us know your opinion on the role of the outside lawyer in helping inside counsel deal with the legal cultural differences?
Well, that's a very interesting question. This is a big issue. I know it's a big issue in the United States, and I have reason to think it's a big issue everywhere. In-house lawyers now are representing companies that are doing global business. They usually are trained in their own country's legal system, but not in the legal system of where many of their subsidiaries may be, or branches, or employees. And so one of the main issues is this concept of legal culture. And while they can get a lawyer to help translate the language, perhaps, and to provide them documents and things of that nature, there are different cultures in different countries, how lawyers interact. So it's so important for in-house lawyers who have to deal with foreign subsidiaries, foreign branches, to have some understanding of the legal culture in those other countries. And they can they really need to rely, and often do rely, on outside lawyers to help them provide that understanding. And the example I would like to give is of cases I work on in France. When I work with a French lawyer, the French lawyers often just take a case and run with it. And they make the decisions and they write the briefs and they let the client know at the end of the day how it came out. When you have a case in front of the French Supreme Court, the client doesn't even meet the lawyer. There's a special set of lawyers who litigate in front of the Supreme Court, and you're really not allowed to meet them. The American legal culture is completely different, and in-house lawyers expect to be involved at every step of the way, reviewing every brief, making every decision, literally having calls sometimes, certainly a weekly call, but sometimes even a daily call. So the outside lawyer, I think, provides a really important service of doing that kind of legal cultural translation. And I have done the same thing working in Mexico. When I've worked with Mexican clients and Mexican law firms, I've explained, hey, here's the things we need to do to make the US client satisfied. We need to have a weekly call. We need to keep him or her updated. We need to make sure he approves or somebody approves each brief. Likewise, I try to learn from my Mexican colleagues. What is it that how do they operate, so that I can help my in-house contact understand how the system works. The Amparo example I gave earlier is one example. I always, one of the things I always hear from my Mexican colleagues is, oh, we could always try an Amparo proceeding. And I like to try to explain that as an option to my US contact. So these are critical roles for outside counsel to play. They're new roles. I believe this is something really developing over the past decade. And I think your bar association and bar associations in Mexico and the UIA can play a critical role in helping cross that legal cultural divide, which can be as big a divide as language, and probably bigger, because all you need for language is a translator. But for a legal cultural divide, you need a lawyer who understands both systems.
Thank you, Jerry. About the independence of the judiciary, that's a topic in which lawyers cannot be just given for granted. So we must make it a reality every day. In case of jurisdictions where the independence of the judiciary is threatened, what would it be the role of the International Association of Lawyers?
This is an area I've spoken on quite a bit, and is so important because, first of all, our whole system is founded on the notion of the independence of the judiciary, and without that, everything else we do, the independence of the bar associations and freedom of lawyers, the ability to practice and enter contracts and all of that means nothing. We must have an independent judiciary ruling on all of this. The problem is that the judiciary, by its nature and by definition, is not a political body. It's supposed to not be a political body. And so it cannot defend itself in the way that others can. It is not supposed to get involved in the political day-to-day turmoil. And so it has to rely on lawyers. It must rely on lawyers to defend the independence of the judiciary. It can only go so far in protecting itself. And the UIA takes this, the International Association of Lawyers, UIA, takes this extremely seriously. And we welcome judges into our organization. We have a few judicial members, but even beyond that, we work to protect the independence of the judiciary everywhere. For example, right now we're very involved in supporting the Polish judiciary, which is facing infringements on its independence. It happens in many subtle ways that there can be infringements on the judiciary, from blanket dictates given to judges about how they should come out, but more subtle ways, like if you don't come out a certain way, we're going to reduce the salary that's paid to judges, or we're going to take over the disciplinary body and we will discipline you. We've seen all of these both egregious but also more subtle infringements on judicial freedom. And UIA has been tracking that and speaks out whenever we can about those issues.
Thank you, Jerry. There is a concern of the international legal profession regarding the attorney-client privilege. We have been witnessing attempts of modifications or amendments to legislation in various jurisdictions attempting against the attorney-client privilege, particularly in the area of economic competition, money laundering, tax law, and other areas of law. What is the role or position of the International Association of Lawyers regarding this attorney-client privilege?
It's a fascinating question because what we have discovered is that many of our different jurisdictions that we cover approach the attorney-client privilege differently in terms of where it originates, its source. For example, in the United States, it is a doctrine that is accepted. It's part of our legal tradition, and it's critically important to protect the rule of law. In other European countries, and I believe probably in Mexico, it is considered a fundamental human right. It is part of the protection of human rights. Even though those sources of the doctrine may be different, the outcome is the same, which is that it is as essential to the legal system and protection of our rule of law as is the independence of the judiciary. Without the ability to speak with our clients confidentially and without the ability of clients to feel that they can speak openly with their lawyers, then the system becomes unworkable and really leads to injustices. And as governments have have infringed on the judiciary, they've also been infringing on the attorney-client privilege in many, many ways. Again, some blatant, where they demand to know the information, where they arrest lawyers who don't tell them the information, but in more subtle ways, in doing sort of taking steps like listening in on attorney-client phone calls, or issuing laws like some of the money laundering laws that don't take sufficient account of the attorney-client privilege. And UIA has made it a absolute fundamental principle to protect the professional secrecy, the attorney-client privilege in all its different aspects, which varies around the world. And we're actually issuing a statement on behalf of our collective or bar association members in the coming week. We held a colloquy about this at our recent Congress in Luxembourg, and it's one of our premier issues. It's absolutely essential to the rule of law.
Thank you, Jerry. I know the International Association of Lawyers celebrates a great annual conference, and it was a scheduled one for Guadalajara, Mexico, this year, 2020. Would you tell us about it? It was postponed. What happened with that Congress or conference?
Yes. So we could not be more thrilled at UIA. We are coming to Guadalajara for our Congress. As you said, it was planned for 2020, and because of the COVID virus, the restrictions on travel and the financial implications and all of that, we have postponed the Congress until 2021. But we are coming to Guadalajara in October 2021. We could not be more excited. I personally am so attached to Mexico. I have visited Guadalajara several times right now, and it is such a stunning city with such a cultural heritage in so many aspects, but also such an important place, such an important business role. I had worked many, many years in Mexico City. I was delighted to discover Guadalajara, and we can't wait to come back there in October of 2021. We hope to see all of the bar associations and all the lawyers in Mexico join us there. We'll be having 3 days of substantive meetings on a whole variety of legal topics. We have 3 main themes that were going to be the themes in 2020, now will be in 2021. 2 of them are very important in Mexico. One is the issues of private corruption in the private sector. And the other is the critically important issue of food law, which is so perfect for Guadalajara, of course, as it finds itself in the middle of an important agricultural and beverage region. By the way, we will also have an activity in the magnificent town of Tequila, which I did not know until I began looking into this Congress, and have Tequila, I have to say, rivals my own Sonoma and San Francisco, where I am right now, as an area of beautiful vineyards, and I have really come to love it. So we're very, very excited about Guadalajara in 2021. We think this is going to be an incredible opportunity for Mexican lawyers to meet their international counterparts, and vice versa, for us to learn about the Mexican system, and for us to enjoy Mexican culture. We have events planned at the Hospicios in downtown Guadalajara, off the main plaza, at the Teatro Degollado, which is just a stunning old theater, and at various other locations in Guadalajara. We hope to take advantage of Chavarilla, of mariachi, and the other aspects of Mexican culture that are based in many ways in Guadalajara.
Congratulations, Jerry. I'm sure it will be a very successful Congress. As you know, the Mexican Bar Association, as an institution, is member of the International Association of Lawyers. We are sponsors, we are participating, and right now I would like to encourage and invite all members of the Mexican Bar Association to make plans for next year and join this incredible Congress in Guadalajara City, organized by the International Association of Lawyers. Great topics, great place. I hope to see you all in Guadalajara. I hope to see you, Jerry, very soon, before the Guadalajara Congress. And for those members of the legal practice in Mexico and probably in other jurisdictions that might be wondering if you're licensed to practice law in another country, is it possible to join this association? What do we have to do to be members of this, the association you represent?
Yeah, yes, anyone, any lawyer licensed anywhere in the world can join the UIA as a member. Our membership is open, and we, as I said, we have many members around the world, and many in Mexico. As you mentioned, our relationship with the Mexican Bar Associations is very close, even closer now that we're working together on the Guadalajara Congress. And all you need to do is go to our website, uianet.org, and sign up. And for membership, there's obviously a discount for the Congress for our members, but you also get all the other advantages of belonging to the UIA, including our publications, our seminars, our webinars, and a number of other advantages.
It will be a great opportunity to do networking at an international level with members of the legal practice from all around the world. The International Association of Lawyers is one of the most relevant international associations of the legal profession, and we will be there as members of the Mexican Bar Association. To end up this interview, Jerry, would you please give us a message to the members of the Mexican Bar Association and all of the members of the International Association of Lawyers, please?
Sure. The UIA is dedicated, and always has been for the past 100 years, to bringing together the world's lawyers. And if there was ever a time that we needed to bring together the world's lawyers more in the past, this is it. This is when we all need to come together as members of the same profession with our brothers and sisters who share the same values, the respect of the rule of law, the excitement of participating as a lawyer, the excitement of a new case, of a new transaction, and of interacting with our fellow lawyers around the world. We have a special relationship with Mexico. We always have. I want to take advantage of the fact that I'm one of the few United States presidents, and during this year that we're organizing this Guadalajara Congress, we have some real opportunities here to do some very exciting things together. I could not be prouder and more excited to be involved in that activity. Let's work together, make this an extraordinary Congress, and keep our relationships going. Let's use the opportunities provided to us by COVID to stay in closer touch as we are right now with the Barra, Mexicana, and our other friends and colegas in Mexico. Hacemos mucho en español. Si usted es hispanohablante y no habla inglés, no hay ningún problema porque hacemos todos en las tres lenguas oficiales de nuestra asociación. Y eso es un aspecto muy importante de UIA. And I really look forward to working with my Mexican colleagues in the coming year.
Thank you very much, Jerry. It was a pleasure and an honor to have Mr. Jerome Roth, President of the International Association of Lawyers. Thank you very much, Jerry. It's been a pleasure. Let's keep in touch. And all members of the legal profession in Mexico and abroad, thank you very much for your attention. Please be safe. Thank you.